Chapter 3. After these things happened, King Ahasuerus was very happy. He had this great wife. He just, because of her, this plot was foiled to assassinate him. He was just so thrilled that he went and he made Haman, the one who gave him the advice, he made him nobility. He said, you know what, Haman? You're going to be right below me. As a matter of fact, I want everyone to bow down to you. You're going to be the guy in charge on the streets. Mordecai went out into the city. Haman went out into the city, and he was really thrilled that he was about to get all this honor. But Mordecai would not bow down to him. Everyone said, Mordecai, you have to bow down to Haman. What are you doing? You're going to get us in trouble with the king. And he said, I don't bow down to Haman. I only bow down to God. I don't bow down to a person. Now we know that Mordecai and Haman, the Medrash tells us, had a history, actually, that I'm not going to go into here. I want to cut the story a little bit short. But suffice it to say that Mordecai didn't owe anything to Haman. As a matter of fact, Haman owed Mordecai big time. And Haman knew this. When Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him, Haman was enraged. It made him so mad. And no matter how much honor he got from everyone else, this one Jew was just making him nuts. So Haman said to himself, I've got to get rid of these Jews. I got to get rid of these Jews. They're totally undermining my position here. And he went to King Ahasuerus and he said like this, there is a certain people. They are scattered abroad and dispersed among all the people in all the provinces of your realms. And their laws are different. And they don't even observe the king's laws. And the king should not tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let it be recorded that I will pay 10,000 silver talents into the hands of those who perform the duties of the king, and all I want to do is have permission to kill them. I'll pay you for permission. And you know what King Ahasuerus said? Nonsense, don't pay me. I want to get rid of them. Here, take my ring and go ahead. And so Haman sent out a decree that on the 14th day of the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the month of Adar, all the Jews should be destroyed. Everyone in the land has position to go, to loot, to plunder, to kill, to murder, and to get rid of the Jews. They have full permission from the king. The copies of the document were sent all over the country by runners, and the Jews heard of the edict, that their destruction was at hand. The king and Haman sat down to drink, and the Jews were beyond themselves. They didn't know what to do. Chapter 4. Mordecai learned of all that had been done, and he tore his clothes, and he went into the city, and he said, I'm in mourning because I know why this happened. This isn't some random thing that some wicked king and his wicked minister came up with a plan. This is because of us, because we sinned, because we weren't faithful. When we went to that king's feast, do you know what we did? We put our fate in the hands of a simple king, of this king, instead of putting our lives in the hand of God as we once upon a time did in temple times. We totally betrayed everything that we stand for. And now look what's happening to us. And so Mordecai told Esther, Esther, you must go to the king and ask him to take away this evil decree. Esther said, what should I do? I can't do this. I mean, anyone who goes before the king without being summoned is instantaneously put to death, and I haven't been called to the king for 30 days. How am I going to do this? So Mordecai sent a message to Esther. He said, pay attention. Do not imagine that you will be able to escape in the king's palace any more than the rest of the Jews. For if you persist in keeping silent at a time like this, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from some other place, while you and your father's house will perish. And he continues on, and who knows whether it was just for such a time as this that you attained the royal position. This is where we learn Jewish communal responsibility. When we're in places of responsibility, we're there to serve the Jewish people. It's only a gift that we're in the position to serve. It's our responsibility to serve. And who knows, maybe that's why we're in our life position, so that we can put ourselves on the line on behalf of the Jewish people. And so Esther said, yes, I will sacrifice myself. But we need a merit from the Jewish people. We need them to sacrifice themselves. And so I want you to go and tell the Jewish people to be in prayer and repentance, to not eat and to not drink for 3 days. After 3 days, when there's unity, when we've broken down all the barriers that come when I eat in my house and you eat in your house, and everyone's busy with their own lives and we're only together in prayer for our very survival, at that point, I will be able to go to the king. And so Mordecai left and did exactly as Esther commanded him. Chapter 5. On the third day, Esther went before the king. And now we're going to pause to tell you something very interesting. Although the name of God is not written anywhere in the Megillah, the word king is written many times. And we learned that every time it says king, it's actually talking about God. You know, we have a friend, and he goes collecting charity. Every year, he collects thousands of dollars so that families in Israel can have a Passover Seder. It's so difficult. He's a very respected person. As a matter of fact, he hosted a radio show that had 40,000 listeners all the time. He's a principal of a school. He's a scholar. And he's got to go and knock on doors. And he comes to America to raise money. And we asked him, what do you think of when you knock on the door? It's so difficult. It's such a degrading position to be in. And he said something I will never forget. He said, I think before I knock, I'm about to knock on God's door. Whatever God says, that's what I'm going to get. Knock, knock. God, is this going to work out? That's the same way it was for Esther. She knew that when she was going to the king, he was just a king of flesh and blood. What can a king of flesh and blood do? Everything comes through God. She knew if I'm standing before him, I'm actually standing before God to beg and beseech salvation for my people. And an incredible thing happened. Esther came forth, and the king stuck out his scepter, and he accepted her presence. And he said, what can I do for you? And she said, please, I would like to invite the king and Haman to a special banquet that I have prepared in their honor. And the king said, certainly, tell Haman to hurry and fulfill Esther's wish. And so the king and Haman came to the banquet. At the feast, the king said to Esther, what is your request? It shall be granted to you. And what is your petition? Even if it be half the kingdom, it shall be fulfilled. Interesting, only half the kingdom. He was kind of telling her, like, just don't talk to me about the Jews and their temple. That half is not up for discussion, but half the kingdom we can talk about. And Esther said, all I ask is that you come to another feast that I'll prepare for you tomorrow. And the king said, certainly. That day was a big day for Haman. He walked out, the Megillah says, joyful and exuberant. And he said, wow, could you believe it? Like, I'm invited to this special, intimate feast with the queen and the king. This is unbelievable. I'm at my pinnacle of success. He walked outside of the palace, and who does he see? Mordecai. Man, that guy gets on his nerves. He's just not bowing down. It's just making him crazy. He went home, and he said, okay, friends, my wife, guys, we got to do something about this. Like, I can't stand this. This one guy's getting on my nerves. He's standing in the way of my success. And they gave him some advice. They said, well, just have him hanged. What's the big deal? And so Haman went, and he made a gallows 50 feet high in order to hang Mordecai. That was the advice of his wife, Zeresh.